Okay, so let's begin drawing the outline of the left eye. We've established that this is the right-hand corner and this is the left-hand corner. So using that information, draw the inside outline of the eye. So just the shape that the eyelid makes. I'm going to use the axis line I drew to help me make this shape. Do your best to get this angle and pay attention to where the outline intersects with the axis line. Once you have that line drawn, move to the mark you made on the left. I'm going to draw a curve from there and connect it to the line I drew on the right. The trick is to look for and recreate the shape that the eyelid makes above the axis line. Once that shape is in, do your best to draw the line that the lower eyelid makes. Just connect the two corner dots you made with this curve. The reason I like to begin by drawing the inner eyelid first is because you can see the expression the person has on their face just in this shape. You can tell she's smiling by those lines alone. And this lesson isn't just about drawing eyes, it's about capturing expressions. The rest of your drawing is going to build up around the shape of the inner eyelid, so the hard part's already over. The next feature out from the center would be the line where the eyelid folds. You already have a mark to show you where it starts, over here on the left. Now all you'll need to do is pay attention to the distance from the eyeball all the way around the top. I know it gets dark in this area because of the shadows, but the line is there. Just look closely. Again, I'm just judging the distance between these two lines, and as you can see, it ends right next to the line for the inner eyelid. With that information in, I can easily guess the distance from here to here, so I'm just going to give myself a little mark to indicate where this line's going to go. Now look for other landmarks you can line the eyebrow up with to show you where it ends. It lines up with the tip of the right side of the eye you just drew. Next, let's locate where it begins. This is where that flow of lines I was talking about comes in handy. Remember I showed you how the curve of the eyelashes is going to flow right into the curve of the top line of the eyebrow? So, starting at the line of the outer eyelid, draw in that one eyelash and it should connect you to the upper line of the eyebrow. Now, can you see how that same flow is going to give me the right-hand side of the pupil? Next, I want to draw in this line, so I'll have to use my best judgment and guess the distance of the width of the eyebrow, then estimate the angle of this line connecting it to the curve I just drew. With that information in, it should be easy to finish outlining the rest of the eyebrow. The tip on the left should line up with the first line you drew so you know where it begins. No shading and don't draw on any hairs yet, and don't worry if it doesn't look perfect, you'll have plenty of opportunities to adjust it later. Let's move to the eyeball next. The best approach is to break it up into smaller shapes. Start by drawing a line for this triangle shape the shadow makes in the right corner. Instead of trying to draw the iris, I'm going to focus on making this shape. It helps to focus on the negative space, or in this case the shape of the white of the eye, to make sure the eye is looking in the right direction. This is a helpful trick to make sure your drawing has symmetry. Don't forget to outline the highlight. My axis line goes right through the middle of the highlight on mine. Use your axis line to help make sure that yours is placed perfectly. Notice that the highlights line up in both eyes. It's important to make sure they line up in your drawing as well, or it won't look symmetrical. The trick is to use the highlight's proximity to the axis line to make sure they're all in a row. Now use that highlight to help you find where the pupil is. Notice that it's centered and intersects its outer line. That's an important landmark. A helpful hint to help you decide the size of the pupil is to look at the distance from it to the edge of the iris on the sides. If it's too close on one side, it's either too big or off-center. Now I know my drawing so far isn't perfect, but again, managing mistakes is part of the drawing process. The preliminary sketch level is designed to allow for imperfections to be adjusted before doing any shading. I want you to learn how to recognize them early and fix them easily. The shape of the left-hand corner of the eye needs to be adjusted slightly. As more information is drawn in, you'll have more features available to you to help you see when something looks off. All any artist can do is make changes as they see them, and eventually the lines will harmonize. Okay, I want to get the curve of the eye socket next. First, guess the distance. I like to give myself a starting point and an ending point for a line. That way it feels more like connecting dots. Then all you have to do is get the angle of the curve right. Do that by visualizing the flow of the eyebrow and continuing the line down. To get the shadow on the bottom eyelid, look for what line would flow into it, and remember to treat it like a plane. Next thing down is the bottom lip of the eyelid. Keep your lines light and no shading yet. Just look for any shapes that you can define. And don't draw on the eyelashes yet. Leave them for last. Okay, I think that's enough information. Take a moment and look at what I've drawn so far. These are all the lines needed to define an eye. Full disclosure, before I begin work on the other eye, I'm going to use this eye as an example. I'm going to be making mistakes in my drawing to teach you how to recognize and resolve them. So be sure to watch ahead before you begin drawing.